and welcome to 2022. And this week in the room with Garvin and George are some of our previous guests from the last few weeks. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you're not too cold.
In the room, 52 Jokers Wild. The fear is of not getting the next job, not getting the opportunity to have that problem. That's where you've actually overcome most of it. You're actually going, I want to be a comedian. Actually, I think you're actually asking, in my understanding, I want hecklers. I want hecklers to heckle me on stage, and I want to be able to deal with them because it's live, and that's who's going to be there if I'm failing and falling fast unless it's just pre-recorded.
But sometimes hecklers can actually be really, really helpful. Be they joking hecklers, like just having a bit of a laugh, or be nasty hecklers. Sometimes they can actually help.
You touched on a few of the words earlier on, Aidan. You said stress and anxiety and fear. See, anxiety and stress, most of it's actually about a condition that hasn't happened yet. It's afraid of the future, what might go wrong. It hasn't happened. 9 times out of 10 of one, the what if. Therefore, and it's usually, I haven't got on stage yet. If you're in the moment, it's whatever's going on is going on. You can't react. You're doing what you're doing. Yep. But you can worry about the future, and you can be depressed and stressed over the past and things you cannot change. There is only the now, and therefore we've got to keep on living in this moment, living the now, and do to do. Therefore, that's where you need to be.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I've heard that so many times, and it's brilliant. The past, the future hasn't happened. All we have is now.
And that's Terminator. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Read the future.
Oh, here we go. Terminator. Brilliant. This is really good.
The future's what we make
On Friday, last Friday, I had the opportunity to go and ride a Royal Enfield motorcycle and a Harley Davidson. And the thing was, I had no expectation of what was going to happen that day. I didn't even know I was going to get a chance to ride on a Harley Davidson. But my wife had said, you can't ride a bike because you'll influence our boys and they'll get killed. You can't ride a bike, you'll influence our boys and they'll get killed.
That is a lot of pressure to do something.
Right, that's a lot of pressure.
Possibly in the future kill your family.
Right. So what does my eldest son do, who's 32? He bought himself a motorbike. He learned how to ride it. He basically rebuilt it, and he's driving around Canada saying, Mum, I'm in Canada. You can't touch me.
He's doing live video feeds on Instagram going, hi, Mom.
Yeah, he's going to go, there you go, Mum. Yeah, that's it. And of course, now Dad's kind of going, do you know what? We're doing exactly what Garvin says. We need to lead our lives and live, actually enjoy the moment.
No, we're back to,
there was fear.
It's back to Aidan. Aidan is here. He's not a thespian. He said he's an actor. He might be a hybrid, and he's got a speciality playing dead bodies, but and parts thereof, and he wants to be a comedian. You said you're a storyteller. You're a you're a musician, storyteller, actor, and what you're doing is you're trying to give happy times, good times of yourself and your skill set to others to bring them away from where you've been so they don't go there. So, I mean, and I think that's really the takeaway that's really happening now. I realize that your acting is I mean, I don't know what we asked Aidan, have we seen you in anything? Maybe we haven't, maybe we have, but somebody has, and they got enjoyment from whatever you did. And that's you're of a given nature. And you're giving your skin to others, and it's your learnings and your earnings, and then that's an interesting sort of way of looking at it as well.
Yeah, that's good. I'll tell you something else. Where you might have seen me. Do you remember the 2 men who got married to avoid tax?
Yes.
Oh, right.
That's me.
You're actually worldwide known, recognized.
No, absolutely.
We have a show with 3 customers potentially. And you've gone off and conquered the world. You've
saved
accident,
the show as well.
No. And as I said, again, you've made a document. The weird thing is there was a journey they couldn't wrote itself in real life and even say, actually, I know my sister when she was a student and a friend of mine moved in, they were studying in the same place and they got an apartment together. And the taxman immediately said, your common law husband and wife, they didn't even know each other. There was 2 separate bedrooms. They're going to 2 different colleges. And so the weird thing is it works in their advantage going, you can't have anything from us for the social welfare otherwise because your common law husband and wife taking care of each other. So had you been woman and man in that house, they would have assumed you were common law husband and wife had you been looking for assistance, which is crazy. Now you're going, you legitimately did it and went through the documentation. Because it was legitimate, it doesn't need to be consummated or this, that, and the other. It's like, you can say what you said. It wasn't. You went through the actions. You did what I said in the tin. Yeah. You moved in together. You took care of each other. You signed the documents. They can't take that away from you. And therefore, even saying it out, it wasn't to avoid. The language that was lost in accounting language, because I'm an accountant, is evade as opposed to avoid. You weren't trying to evade inheritance tax. You were trying to avoid inheritance tax, and that was legal.
Well, that's it. If you think about it, people, and I'll mention his name, Michael O'Leary, he pays the equivalent of a normal man's tax.
That's it.
And yet he's earning an awful lot more. He's a billionaire, but he's able to do that. I was even afraid to get the carer's allowance, because if I had to take the carer's allowance, it would have brought Matt above a threshold. Maybe only about
he lose his medical card or do this or something.
The card and all his free things that he got, So I didn't do that. So I didn't mind doing it, and we got great support from someone like Michael McDowell wrote a nice piece in the Irish Times supporting us, saying that we were doing nothing illegal. In what we were doing.
But people are afraid. No one's going to help you. No one's going to. The great thing about it is you found yourself going on that journey, and you said it by a joke, and someone else could formalize and say, actually, that's a brilliant idea. Yeah, there's an awful lot of people out there that are just no one there to help them, nowhere to point the way. They didn't really. Actually, most people I come across, you have those that take from the state and it's generational, and they know how to abuse and screw the system. There's others that can't even access the system.
Yeah, here's the daft thing. My wife and I have been married 34 years, okay? And about a year after we got married, we ended up in Norwich. Trisha's a nurse, so she worked she was allowed to have a room in the nurse's home. Now, I had nowhere else to go, so I had to go and stay. I stayed on the floor in the nurse's home. But we were basically told if they found out that I was there with her, she'd get kicked out, I'd get kicked out. And the only way we could get a house is if I went to the authorities and said that we were separated and getting divorced. And I'm sitting there kind of going, this is completely loopy. This is absolutely mad. We're a young couple trying to be together, and because of circumstances, we're being forced to use a nursing home or the nurse's home, rather, to stay in a single room. And if we got found out being married, we'd have both been kicked out of the flipping place. It just seems daft, doesn't it? This
is the thing. If you're in, this is a problem I have with the government as well, especially with if you're entitled to something and you don't know you're entitled to it, the government will not give it to you unless you ask.
The world is in a stir at the moment. There's another bloody something coming down the line or not. Does that make a damn difference?
Omicron.
Are you going COVID bubble? It doesn't matter. We're creating a bubble, and in that bubble, the bubble boys are going to be in a band.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a factor that you have to take into.
Yep.
What the lockdown did for me, because I'm always so busy with everything, was it made me finish that script, so that was a positive that I took out of it. It's kind of a wait and see. And again, when you're talking about budget in March, if it's full on COVID implications, that's serious money, especially because we quite a big cast, even though a lot of them are day players or whatever, there's a lot of people to negotiate there. And even when you're talking about putting them up in hotels, if they're traveling and stuff like that. So that definitely, I suppose that falls under the contingency plan, doesn't it?
That 10%, 50% contingency. Yeah, I like that now.
Yeah, exactly. So,
again, it's actually there's the accountancy. You're going. It's like you're talking it again. Scenario analysis. I've got scenario 1. This happens. Scenario 2. We're working between the maxes and mins, but it's not. It's just the flavors changing. It's not the core is not changing. It's just. You don't need crowd scenes. You can fill that in afterwards. You can up on the stage green screen, chuck something else in. You can fill it in a year's time.
Can you use Unreal Engine for that?
Unreal Engine, even better. So it's actually what the language we like talking about before is the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. You're going, no, we're going to go 80-20. We won't worry about the 20%. We're going to get 80% of the value and 20% of the time. We're going, then we can, once we've started the process, you're then able to, further package on afterwards. It's you've got the core. So, I mean, I think you've got the story. You've got enough money to get it going.
Yeah.
You don't need to have crowd scenes of thousands.
And that's it. Like, in my opinion, that's indie filmmaking, independent filmmaking. And sometimes, I be on sets and I just see the money wasted, where it's never very logical, to me anyway. And then when you're thinking in the indie realms, as you said, there's so much cheating if you're just clever about it, what you can use. And,
you got to be a guerrilla, mate. That's it. You go guerrilla marketing, guerrilla indie. You go, you turn up with someone else's gig and you just start playing. You go.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking to a sound guy that was working on all the big features for Marvel and all that kind of stuff. And when he started telling the stories of the problems they're having, I'm kind of going, that happens on our sets. It doesn't matter how big you get, the same problems arise. That is, and you kind of go, well, if it happens in the same, for the small things, why not just keep on getting on and doing it and just turn it out and just do it? That's the thing.
Well, interesting, George. You remind me of Siraj now. He's the director of the Indian Film Festival. He was one of our first guests on the Film Business podcast show part. And he was saying he was in the film, I think it's up there in Wicklow there earlier in the year. And he said he had 2 or 3 change outs of these costumes, and he says they never left the wrapper. You're going, they were a couple of grand a piece.
3 of them, yeah.
And you're going 3 change outs. And you're going, that's just him as a bit part. So you can imagine the way there is waste. Now, I like the language of green film and sustainability that's coming down the track as well. So indie film is nearly that way stealth. You're going, you're sustainable.
Well, you bring your own lunch. You just now mentioned it. Sir Vincent de Paul is doing sponsoring you for
I've never seen it like it.
Brilliant. That's a brilliant way of working it. Do you know what I mean?
No, when 100%. The charity thinks you need charity more than they do, it's
you're in a bad position.
You've got 3 in production, or you've got two with something attached to it. I don't know what that is. And there's one doing something else, and there's 4 more following behind. And you're doing, the great thing is you wrote the book. So you got to go out there, walk the walk, talk the talk, write the book, do and you're doing it, and you're getting stuff made. So the great thing is you're a great example to others who go, I started here, I'm doing a bit of this, it's working for me, it might work for you. There's a process. And that's what, and most of what we were learning from the last number of writers we're talking to is they've got to take themselves, we're using this language, out of the drawer. There might be a great script, but they've got to start hustling it. So you've now got a great book title. I don't need any more. I don't even need to read the bloody book, because all you got to do is apply that mindset to it and go out there and do a Paul Newman. Do some hustling. Get it made.
Exactly. And I think Stephen is the best example for that. I mean, he burst out the gate this year and just exactly did that. Just started hustling. He just finished production on another short this weekend. He's worked with some of the best cinematographers in the country. He's absolutely amazing. And I think people like Stephen, people like CJ, I mean, CJ is a legend. He's an absolute legend in the...
Never heard of him.
No. Sure, he has a book out now, is that? And his book is probably
another one of these old books. Everybody and their mother's writing a book these days. I think George has
two out about 20 years ago and another one about 12 years ago.
CJ did a lovely, and I have a friend here, he did a lovely review of my book, and it's just the lovely things he said about me.
You probably know we've a show with CJ, and we're traveling back and forth in time. You're probably going to go out before his. We're going to keep him. We're putting him up for Santa Claus. He's going to be the Christmas edition.
He's Christmas. He's the Christmas edition.
Yeah, whenever CJ's show comes out, do listen.
You better watch it, because somebody needs to listen to this rubbish.
Well, I'm just hyping him up. If he's on later than me, then I'm just hyping him up. But all of these people, there are a few people in the industry right now who I would class as up and comers.
Players, that's the language we were using. We told Stephen yesterday, we're going, you gotta be a player, you gotta hustle and be a player. And the up and coming is you gotta go play the game. And that's exactly what you were saying.
That is it. You have to have your fingers in as many pies as you possibly can. You have to be on as many sets as you possibly can. You have to talk to as many people as you possibly can. And that's the only way, because this industry is very, very tight knit, I think, because we're a tiny little island nation. Like, there isn't that many people.
But we got big gobs. I mean, we pack punch beyond our weight. That's the whole point.
Yeah, but one thing about the Irish, again, let's go back to the Irish again, because I think no matter where I went since I've been living in Ireland, everybody seemed to know who I was. And I'd go, and that was one of the great things about here compared to England. In England, I worked in Norwich for a short period of time. I'd work somebody which would be the distance of this far apart as in the edit suite. And they would cross me that distance in Norwich. And I'd say, oh, hi, how's it going? And they would totally blank me. In Ireland, in Belfast, no matter when, they'd be about half a mile down there. George, are you okay? Are you on the right side of town? Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, hang on, I'll come over to you. Just make sure you're all right. You're right. Okay, yeah, I'm fine.
No,
and then the next thing, somebody else to do the same thing.
What's reminding me, I think what it is we're not trying. I think in general, we are a nation of givers.
Yes.
We give, we like to give. We get a lot from giving. And we do play that game of, pay it forward very, very well. And, and we're hoping, like even this, like you're giving of your time and it's helping us. And we don't know, even if it's only an hour and we get a new relationship out of it and there's an audience of one, that's the only one that matters in our book, because you make that next connection. It opens up another door. Actually, we've had 3 guests in so many days and they're all it's like circling the bloody wagons. They're going, hold on a second. CJ referred in Stephen, who I spoke to 2 years ago, and then it just closed the loop. So it's brilliant because
and I know both of them pretty well. So
there you go.
We're on the right track here.
So it says to us, because what's happening is there's 3 of you might be writer producers, but we've talked to producer actors and they came swinging back around, and turns out, if you join the dots, it's just indie production for the moment in Ireland. Yeah. And that group is very, very focused with a bunch of players that are all vibrating, about to break out with because their talent is there. Yeah. They just need the audience. I'm reminded of the first time we didn't meet. So it was like 2 years ago, and we touched base on LinkedIn, Facebook. History is finding a way. What's happening is serendipity in the universe, or God in George's case, is bringing things full circle. So we got to meet now, but we didn't meet then, and we could have had a Costa coffee then, and we don't get to have one now. Yeah. But back then it was, what was the name of the Screenwriters Ireland? What's the name of the group?
I think back then when we were talking, it was Dublin Screenwriters. Now it's Screenwriters Ireland.
Right, Screenwriters Ireland. What the hell is that about? What happens in there?
So basically, I set Screenwriters Ireland up about, I think it's over 3 years ago now, and it was when I was going through a bad stage because I'd had years of just writing and nothing was happening, as a lot of writers know is the way it goes. And I thought, there's no groups in Ireland that I can find that help writers, that writers can come to, and we can all talk about writing, screenwriting specifically, and we can all share our scripts and give advice and have guests. And I was like, I can't find anything that does that. So I was like, okay, I know. I was going through a bad time. I was a really anxious person back then. I was like, a good way to overcome my anxiety. Let's get 30 people all together that I have to talk to at a big table.
Go back a sentence here. How to overcome my anxiety?
Exactly.
Let's get 30 people and put myself up. I'd have the opposite effect on me. That would.
Actually, Garvin, what that demonstrates is he has been listening to our shows every single week, avidly, because he wouldn't have learned that.
Maybe not 30, but there was at least 20 something, which was good for me because back then I could barely talk to one person. So I remember just from then on, we just everyone just seemed to love it. We just had people just who didn't even know about screenwriting, wanted to learn about it, and all of us were sharing scripts with each other, giving feedback to each other. We ended up having guests in what was like John Connors and Emma Kirwan and Terry McMahon, all these like legends of film in Ireland, and it just was brilliant. And since then, we've just changed it to Screenwriters Ireland because I felt like Screenwriters Dublin.
Yeah, you're a bit racist for Dublin there now.
Yeah, and I mean we have people in the group from all over the world now, and because we do it over Zoom, we can have guests on it. Because obviously we can't do it in person because our old location is we can't do it in there anymore. Because it's over Zoom now, we can have guests on it that we could never have on it before, that were never available to come in person. We had this guy Christopher Lockhart he's like this huge story editor in America. He's worked with some of the biggest actors in Hollywood. We had him on over Zoom. We never would have got him in person, ever.
Did you take him off mute now? I mean, I normally have George on mute. That's it. He didn't know he was on. He was just a little head in the corner looking around.
Yeah, just talking about
where's the on button?
Yeah. Did you do those live? Were they live shows, or did you record them? Or
no, they were live, and then I recorded them and put them into the group, so anyone who didn't go could see it then. But like, I didn't really know with Christopher Lockhart who he actually was. It sounds terrible, but I kind of...
You've done as much research as we do.
That's how our shows go. It's better not to know who they are.
And it sounds terrible. And afterwards, the guys were like to me, like, I obviously threw out when he was talking about things, like, he was talking about, I was talking to Denzel's agent. I was like, holy fuck. I was like, who is this guy? Like, and afterwards the guys at the meeting from the group were saying to me, how did you get him, Steve? And I was like, well, I just sent him a message.
I Googled him.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think I ended up, I was in his group, the Inside Pitch for Loglines, but I hadn't done any research on him. And I was like, he runs the group. He seems like he knows his stuff. Let's have him on. And they were like, how'd you get him? I was like, I just sent him a message. And he said, oh, yeah, I love Ireland. Yeah, no problem. I'll come on anytime. And they were like, what? It's like, yeah, I just sent him a message.
You didn't mention that there's only 18 members. He said, Screenwriters Ireland, you say. I heard of Ireland. And this is a national group. Brilliant. I'll come on as a guest.
16 years ago or so, we basically set up a little company. We got the insurance, and that gave us the freedom to go out there and do stuff. Because even if you're teaching filmmaking, one of the problems that we had with trying to teach students was the fact that if you needed to make sure the insurance was there for when they went out, and if the lecturer couldn't be with them, who was there guiding them through the process? Because we had some lads going off and thinking they could jump off buildings and all sorts of things. We're kind of going, you misfall and break your leg, who's going to get sued and who's going to pay for that bill? Actually,
George, there's two words I just heard in that sentence, and it's mad. It's the first time I've actually heard it and perceived it in that way.
My God, you were listening. Wow.
I know, it's terrible. And it's weird. As an accountant, insurance is freedom. That is a weird statement. I was going risk, compliance, regulatory, cost. No. Insurance is freedom. And if you perceive it that way, it allows you to go off and do the value. If you do the risk and compliance and all the rest of that, and the admin is to bring that figure down to make that freedom more. And that, so you got your insurance.
I mean, one of the other things that we were constantly doing was risk assessment, and everybody's kind of, why you have to do risk assessment? We kind of went, well, actually, if we've done the risk assessment, again, we've got a certain amount of freedom because we've done that bit of compliance, and all of a sudden we could start to structure our films, and that helped as well. So some of these things that you think are going to be constraints end up being liberating techniques for you. And quite often I found that with the films that we've made is that when it's really funny that you never have any money when you're making a movie. And it's almost as though it's a test to see if you can actually get that done. And we always did, because we'd set up enough procedures to make sure that those films could actually be achieved. And I think that's a key part of actually producing something. Is that what you found in your
got your freedom? Exactly. You got your freedom. You paid your insurance. What did you do?
Well, in my case, what we did was I set up another little entity called Son of a Gun Films. So basically, when we, as in, I'm a son of a big gun, actually. So a skill that I have, I can kind of organize events. This is, other things I've done along in my life, which I won't go into now because it's going to go off on a complete mad tangent.
We're not going to let you, don't worry.
No, that's okay.
But anyway, so, that is a skill that I have. So I can get people who are writers, but wouldn't have the wherewithal themselves to even attempt to assemble a crew of people, and it's a script worth making, or might have a director. That's what they want to do. They don't want to, have to ring up somebody to get a location. I'm always thinking, okay, well, where could we get for free that looks really good, that would make this thing pop? Not just trying to do something.
You are a producer, line manager, production, location specialist. The guy, you are the holistic end to end. The strange thing is, you think you're an actor. No, that's allowed you in. You can perform. Absolutely. You have a little bit of the ego there. I want to be seen. I want to be on the front. I want to be in front of the camera on the stage. But everything I've heard since the beginning of this show is your skill set from whatever you did before. Well, it's the project management, production to get stuff made.
You were talking about being you're talking about the writers and not knowing, and then you were talking about the location side of things and going off and finding it. Did you ever struggle with writers who basically were so precious with what the locations would be, or how would you encourage them to think about a location that they hadn't had in mind but you saw could actually make that film pop?
Well, I suppose the few writers that I knew that I dealt with were flexible, but I think sometimes, I've probably made about 40 short films, I've been in about 40 short films. So some of them never seen the light of day, 30 plus probably have. But I've also got lots of scripts, say, from students, or even not even particularly student filmmakers, but, first time. And I think what it is sometimes that they have this ambition, like they're watching, Netflix and Amazon Prime and everything. Or the worst of all, moving away from locations, is people think they can do everything CGI. Oh yeah, well, we'll do this and it's all special effects. And it's like, you hear that. I think you probably hear it more on, an unfunded set rather than people who know what they're at and hear, oh yeah, that can be fixed in post. Says, Mrs. Wardrobe, or
can I use your cannon to blast them out there?
Because who knows nothing about it, absolutely can't. If the sound is shite in the very beginning, you're banjoed.
I see most people give up within two to 3 years. And it's a spectacular way they give up as well. The rocket just goes for it. I'm going to be the biggest thing in Hollywood. They start quoting themselves. They start talking in monologues about their own production, like they're the main player in everyone else's life.
Are you talking about me, CJ? That's everything I do in the last 25 episodes.
And then they come plummeting back down, because Hollywood's rejected them. And the problem I see is, I call it the Cinderella narrative. That's what I call it. And I see this over and over again. And I see it with people in general, but I see it in the arts the most. And it's this belief that if you sing quietly while sweeping the floors, and you sing with the mice, and you're all meek, and you dream about all these wonderful things happening, but you don't expect it. And that's a critical thing, because it's a karma hack. You don't expect it. Then eventually a fairy godmother is going to pop up out of nowhere, get in your carriage, we're off to the palace, the prince is going to fall in love with you, and you're going to be rich, and the entire town is going to worship your existence. And I see that with artists. They genuinely believe that if they sit there, like you say, scripts in a drawer, I'm just a humble little artist dreaming of Hollywood, but I don't expect it. I don't feel entitled to it. They kind of think that's a karma hack. And it's so ironic, because they're just pretending to be meek and modest in the hope that they will suddenly be discovered.
No, I'm going to take that little analogy there for a second, right? Because now all I can see are all these, single glass slippers strewn about the place, and not a bloody prince to be found. So actually, there's only one prince for it. The waiting is, there's not a prince for every script or every Cinderella. You're going, there's only so many pairs of glass slippers, and it doesn't necessarily mean it'll fit. And the whole point is, we've got Doc Marten slippers. They're 16 holes, 18 holes, big feet, small feet. You're going, most of the time, that's the problem. We're going, the prince goes along to the dance with his glass slipper, and the Cinderella that turns up is genius. There's no amount of shoehorn in this thing. It's not going to go on.
No, it's not going to go in there. No.
Well, the thing is, they aren't even trying that, because what they're doing is they're just waiting in the basement for the fairy godmother. And then when the fairy godmother doesn't show up and whisk them into Hollywood, there's a degree of resentment. Like, I've been modest. I've been meek. I've not shown any entitlement to all these things I secretly dream about. Why isn't it paid off? And it's the ego-driven modesty of the faux humble artist. It's this kind of self-destructive mindset. And the artists that succeed are the ones that do go out and push themselves and promote themselves and get in front of people, not in a tacky way, not in a pushy way, but in a humble way, in a differently humble way. And I wish more writers and artists in general would see that.
What I can see now is they're not hanging around waiting for a pair of glass slippers. So a couple of them are there have gone off the Rumpelstiltskin and cobbled together, a bit of bubble wrap, masking tape. They put it on the feet. They're going to the feckin' ball. Devil be cared. They're in there. There's a poor prince going to do a little bit of Strictly Come Dancing, and they feckin' grab him and they take him off the stage. So the thing is, you've got to kidnap yourself a prince. You can't be waiting in the queue and Strictly Come Dancing. You've got to go out there and nearly fucking hijack them.
I've done panto once.
There you go, we knew it.
And it's great fun.
Who were you? Were you a dead guard?
I was a prince.
Or what did you do?
I was Prince Happy of Happy Land.
Jesus. I'm not even going to go there. There's too much.
There's too much there.
Oh man.
I think actually one of the problems I think is that Garvin's 6'7" or something, and he's so up there, you know, that all he sees is the clouds. So you know,
I'm in the clouds to start.
A little bit smaller. Actually, he just told me apparently Jesus was the same height that I am, kind of thing. So he's trying to sort of trim his legs.
We had this conversation earlier. We touched on that other song, If Jesus Was One of Us. And at the moment...
Would he get on the bus?
Well, would he get on the bus?
Escape from Garvin.
Would he have a podcast show? We said this before. He'd have to have a bloody good one. Yeah. Or he'd have, because the same number of followers we have, we're all doomed. But what we were touching on was they'd done a 3D print from the Turin Shroud and using all the physics and maths of today. And it turns out Jesus is 5'11". Now, the average height at that time when he was meant to be around was 5'4" or 5. So Jesus was not only godlike, he was a bit lanky. So if Jesus was lanky and one of us, would he have a podcast show?
I swear to God, if he had a podcast show, it would be probably the most listened to. Even if you're an athist, people would listen to it.
Absolutely.
The great thing about Jesus podcast.
We're going to be talking about carpentry, you know. I mean, and like, you know,
distillery,
chipping, wood turning.
How is he going to compete with Joe Rogan?
Well, Joe Rogan would have him on the show straight away, and he'd be blasted out of the water there, you know.
But would he be blaspheming? You know, we'd have to be, can't be sort of all PC now to get these audiences up to date.
What if Jesus said, Joe Rogan, I'll be on your show, or I'll be on Garvin and George's show, but on one condition, you can ask me anything you want, but just don't curse.
Well, you pay peanuts and you get monkeys, so it depends on my budget, you know.
I thought that was elephants.
No, that's it.
No, actually, there's a nice lead in, because if we're 52 Jokers Wild, the show is in the room. The implied word is the elephant. The elephant in the room. You're bringing in an elephant into the room. What's your elephant? What color is your elephant? What's your elephant that's in the room?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's just, I suppose my whole thing is tenacity, you know, and just always kind of feeling like coming from the outside, whether that's true or not. And I always feel like I have a point to prove. And I love the people who have said no to this project. I fucking love it, because that's me going, you said, wait till you see. You're
a told you so personality.
Yeah, that's it.
I definitely am, you know. And I mean, I was told in an acting college that some people shouldn't write their own scripts. You know, that was a note that was given. And again, you know,
that's
when you
go, red flag to you, is it?
It's really, I was like, so you take these elements and you just go, okay, yeah, I am that kind of person where it's like, right, I'll show you. So tenacity, I suppose, will be my thing. And when you have such like a clear vision of it, and it's very hard, I find it very hard actually to verbalize my vision. Sometimes, you know,
Jesus, we'd be in trouble if you had to verbalize the pecker. You didn't just kiss the Barney Stone, you made love to the damn thing. Like me, you're going, you're not shy of a few words, you're not lost for the lingo.
No, yeah, but like I don't know, I'm very visual, and I know exactly, I'm very confident in exactly how the script and how it's going to play out. At the same time, being open to suggestions and ideas. I'm not a dictatorship on it. But yeah, sometimes I do find it hard to verbalize it, and I feel like I need to go and show people, you know. And that's why, like I said, people will talk about things, and I'm just like, no, life's too short. Get out there and
show and tell. Show and tell.
Show and tell.
I like that.
I think it's absolutely fabulous.
And do even better.
Now, there's another very interesting topic. Even because all the aliens are always humanoid, because you know it's right.
That's it.
But say Star Trek, for example. The Vulcans, they represent all of these different alien races, tend to represent different kind of character traits that stem from humanity, because humanity is all we know. And it's really, really always interesting to see what we choose to idealize. So in Star Trek, for example, our kind of lower urges, the Klingons, they would be, you know, violent and always prone to war, whereas the Vulcans would be portrayed as you know, the intelligent and non-emotional and our higher kind of self. that is where so much of the conflict and really, really interesting conflict can be built from. The idea stemmed from the divide between the Spartans and the Athenians in ancient Greek culture. So, and there's so much. That is why I would never dare in a million years to knock sci-fi or any genre of any kind, because all of them have really, really deep roots in deeply embedded human kind of cultures, and that have grown.
Well, I love the fact that you're talking about some of the kind of the philosophical stuff and the ancient sort of myths and all those kind of things. How much in preparation for writing do you think a writer should? What do you think they should start to explore to improve upon their writing? I know Garvin doesn't like us talking about this, but my premise is that basically, if you can't,
you two are under really some bloody illusion that this is an indie film podcast. No, this is a pub in my side.
Yeah, no, but this is so important because it's still about it's the genesis of language. It's the genesis of understanding our psychology. It's understanding us. Why people want to go to the pictures to actually watch something like this, which will then generate money, which will actually pay for the production in the first place. So there is a basis behind having this understanding. And it is a massive part of the movie, because if you don't get that right, it doesn't matter how much money you raise and throw in it, it will still not work if part of that story is weak. Do you know what I mean? I think that's an important part.
I think as a writer, if you're not interested and curious in everything, in every single story that's ever been told, then you're going to fall flat eventually. And I think that a lot of writers think, oh, I'm going to write my one thing, and that is going to be my thing, and I will write it, and nothing else will ever, penetrate my consciousness. Chances are you're not going to write great stuff. So the more curious you are about, educating yourself, and that doesn't go into academic education. It just means being curious about the world and listening and trying to explore different perspectives. And as a screenwriter, especially, you need to understand human nature, because you need to be able to create characters and give them voices. That's what we do in screenwriting. That is what you do. You create characters and then you give them distinct voices. And if you are not able to give those distinct voices to your distinct characters, they will always fall flat, and the story will always fall flat, and it will always sound amateurish.
We've basically worked out for every 3 minutes of film, it's around about £5,000. All the bits and pieces that go into it. So that's it's every 3 minute film that you've made, or 3 minutes parts of, like your 10-minute film, is 15,000. So you've already spent on your show, if it's half an hour. You've spent what?
You're 150 grand of effort in.
That's
it doesn't matter if it's any good. This is not about it being good. No, I mean, if it had to get its money back, had you paid it, you're going, it's 7 cents of paying view as something out there. You need 1 million paying customers of 7 cents of something on a Netflix profit share to give you that money back. Was it that good?
It's kind of like we had another thing Christopher Lockhart said when we had him on was all the different components that writers don't realize to getting the script out there. It's not just as easy as saying to someone, I have a great script. It's how important your logline is. Like he was saying that he gets hundreds of scripts a day from people. And he said, like, I'm so busy, I would never have the time. And he was like, if I'm going to take the time to even read one of those scripts on a day when I could be spending off with my family, better be good.
Well, I mean, firstly, I want to say that I don't want to strike any fear into writers who are vulnerable and struggling and, who are really on their
last. That's my job, CJ. You do the rest.
and Script Revolution will always be safe harbor, regardless of where you are and how much you want to put in beyond writing itself. And if you do want to just write, and that's what you need in actual therapy, Script Revolution at least gives you that baseline of somewhere you can put a script and just get on with your writing. And there will always be a chance. And it does happen that people get found that way. However, if you want to maximize your odds and that you have energy there beyond just writing, and you're pacing around your room or your house thinking, what can I do? And you've queried and you've reached out and you've tried to network and none of it is really resulting in anything, then I encourage anyone in that position, if you already have your craft pretty much mastered, to just start thinking like a producer, start thinking about marketing that script, building that package, building that pitch, building that proof of concept, and marketing yourself and your voice and who you are as well, and pushing that out. And Script Revolution will give you some benefits from that. It will try and put you towards the top of lists, or you will get featured. but just in general, getting yourself out there rapidly and exponentially increases the chances someone's going to come back. You have to meet the universe halfway when it comes to your expectations, and you cannot expect anything to happen if you lock yourself in a dark room. It's not just about keeping the script in the drawer, it's about keeping yourself in the drawer. And there is no Oscar for remaining humble. There is no business plan in the world which takes a company and puts it in a cupboard and hides it away and hopes that the world comes and finds it. So, I mean, be proud of yourself, be proud of your voice, and get out there. And it doesn't have to be arrogant. It doesn't have to be tacky. Do it in a classy way.
And I think the more flexible, especially as a writer, the more flexible you are. If you can write a 200 million budget historical epic and write a 10
there's an interesting,
feature.
I'm going to be cheeky and go, where are you at in your career path based on being a commissioned writer? That are you getting paid the day rate you want based on where you're not writing for the 100 million epic? No. That's what you're saying. You have plenty of little, you get work and you can get on a regular basis and be paid. Now, at the same time, you're going, what was are you close to your A game one where they've come and actually given you exactly what you wanted and you got beyond the living?
But I don't think I'll ever be there, because as soon as I reach that level, I will aim for the next level. But no, I make, like I said, most of my money comes from the States for script doctoring and script editing. That's just where the money is. That's just where
your
the money
baseline.
Spec
That's
script
your
is not. Spec scripts aren't going to get you anywhere. Not in this country.
To be honest, this is the second podcast I've been on. I've one more coming up next week. And for some reason in the last while, I've been asked to come on podcasts. And it's just something different. And again, like I come back to about life, doing what you can, while you enjoy it to the best as you can, but variety. And you guys are great. This is variety.
A simple parting gift is that if you're going to do something, ask yourself, are you being kind? You know, when you're going to talk to people, or you have to answer a phone, or you have to go into a shop and you have to do something, when you're dealing with a person, am I going to be kind? And kindness is the simplest thing to do. If you give with kindness, and even when you're giving or not giving, or if you're just going in to talk to somebody in a shop, go in with a bit of kindness in your heart. Try and just go in, have that kind of kindness is probably the most important thing that we give, because if we in our minds and if in our hearts, if we're going living our life, just try and be kind to the person who you're talking. Don't be giving out or saying, oh, it's this, it's that. Just be kind.
Hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and click on the bell for notifications.